Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I am going to be putting away some clothes, picking up my room, and cleaning the bathroom. So if you guys have a small task to do, this will be a great video to watch or listen along, because today I'm going to be reading the Word of God and just having a little chat with you all. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with Proverbs 31. Man, that chapter can definitely sound intimidating. Well, at least for me. The woman that Proverbs 31 is talking about is a woman that seems like she has it all figured out and has it all planned out, gets it all done with no issues, no complaints. It seems like everything goes perfect for her and there's nothing wrong with her. But as time passed on and I continued reading Proverbs 31, I realized that I was becoming intimidated by this woman and felt like I cannot live up to those standards. And therefore, I wouldn't really want to compare myself to this woman. But this chapter wasn't for us to have imposter syndrome or for us to read it and feel like, man, I will never live up to this. This chapter, once I continue reading it and just truly meditating on it time after time, I realized that this was her life. This is her capabilities. And this is just a great way of us looking at her like a mirror and saying, well, maybe there are some areas where I can do better. Or maybe there are some areas that I can change. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do it exactly like her, but definitely I can look up to her and not compare myself to her, but definitely grab some things of her and implement them in my life in my own way and how it would work for me. Proverbs 31:10 says, "Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands." Right there at the beginning, who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. It is a great way for us to realize that this is how God looks at us. He understands that we are worth so much. And the heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. These are definitely qualities that we can begin wanting to acquire. And a great way for us to begin acquiring these qualities is getting closer to God. Verse 13 says she seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. This is a perfect example of how she was doing things that were for her time and for her family. Maybe we don't seek wool and flax, but we definitely work willingly with our hands. We cook, we clean, we pick up, and maybe there's things we do. Some ladies that watch my videos do crafts. Some of them do candles. Some of them do hair. So many things that we do with our hands to help bring in for our family. One of the verses that really would get me is verse 15, where it says, "She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants." Here, when it says that she rises while it is still yet night, I would compare myself, like, I need to be waking up super early. This means that, she's up before the sun comes up. She's doing this and that even before the sun comes up. But that was her. Another thing that I want to highlight is that she had maidservants. She wasn't doing this alone. If you have help, that's amazing. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you don't, then definitely ask God to help you in these areas, because you're not going to be exactly like this particular woman, because you're not having to go out to the market. You're not having to go out to provide food for your children. A lot of times you may be home. You might not necessarily have a field. You might not necessarily have a vineyard. But once I continue reading this, I kept saying to myself, this isn't for me to be exactly like this woman in the sense of the things that she had, but more in the sense of who she was, her essence. A woman that would rise up and take care of her home and would feed her children and would take care of her husband and love them and love her children and love herself, and to do it gladly. That is key right there. It wasn't just the material things and the physical things that she was doing, but more of the internal of her essence, who she was being. Because I'm sure if she did something else, that didn't necessarily change her essence. So it was more of who she was from within. And who she is from within is what we should aspire to be. Giving, not selfish. Someone who is always trying to do for her family. Someone who is nurturing. Someone who is a host, a servant. Someone who helps the needy. Someone that her personality is something for her husband to smile upon. She isn't bringing headaches to her husband. She isn't bringing headaches to the home. She's trying to be a good wife, a good mother. Next time you read Proverbs 31, don't take down a list of all the things this woman does and measure yourself up to it. Instead, look at all this woman does and look at her heart while she's doing it. Her heart posture. Her form of doing it in a way of love. Those are the things that we should aspire to have. Because not everyone will have a field. Not everyone will have a vineyard. So what would we do if we don't live in homes, if we don't live in areas that we're able to do these things? Would we be disqualified to be Proverbs 31 women? No, because it wasn't ever meant for us to measure ourselves with all the things she has. It was for us to take a look at the heart posture of a woman and there take that into consideration and work on ourselves to be better. Many times, as a mother and a wife, I have compared myself to people on Instagram, to people on Facebook, to people around me. And I would begin to measure my life to theirs. When we all live different lives, we all have different capabilities, different strengths, and different weaknesses. And it was always funny because a lot of people would tell me, oh, Carla, you're great at this. Carla, you're great at that. And I would say thank you, but in my head, I would still desire to be this way or that way. But the Proverbs 31 woman knew her strengths and she played on those. So what are your strengths? What are you good at? And give the best in those areas. And then also know, what are your weaknesses? What are you not so good at? And get help. The Proverbs 31 woman had maidservants. You probably cannot have a maidservant. But you can definitely reach out to a sister and say, hey, I'm not so good in the kitchen. I don't really know how to cook. Can you teach me? Or maybe you need to find ways to make more simple meals. Maybe it's organization. Maybe if you're a homeschooling mom, you're struggling with math. There's so many things that we can definitely get help on. We don't have to feel like because we're not doing it all or we don't know it all, that we're not good or good enough, or we are not like this person or that person. Because maybe someone is amazing at 90% of the things they do, but there's still that 10% that they definitely can get some help in. And there's nothing more beautiful than humbling yourself and recognizing, I need help in this area. And many people who talk about Proverbs 31 women don't really go in depth about her having maidservants. And again, we might not be able to have maids in our homes, but it shows me that she had help. There's nothing more beautiful than humbling ourselves and saying, hey, I need help in this area. Hey, I need to learn this. Maybe there's a better way for me to do this. Some people may seem like they're doing it all and we're comparing ourselves, but we have no idea that they may be lacking in loving their husbands, lacking in loving their children, because they're so focused on checking off tasks and being great at cooking, cleaning, organizing, decorating. At the end of the day, those things are amazing, but are those things valuable? I'm pretty sure if this Proverbs 31 woman checked off everything on her to-do list, but did it with arrogance, with annoyance, frustrated, complaining, she would not be called a virtuous wife. She would not be worth far more than rubies, because her heart would not be in the right place. So I'm not discouraging anyone from getting housework done. Obviously, that is so important. I'm not discouraging anyone from making things from scratch or doing the things that they do. I just want to encourage those moms who feel like they're not keeping up. What's most important is how we do the things we do. I hope this video encouraged you, and I hope that you have an amazing day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.